I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Jessica, for about 6 years now. We got married pretty young, right out of college, and for the most part, I thought we had a good, stable life. She was the kind of girl who always had an answer for everything, smart, sharp-tongued, and she knew how to make it seem like she was right even when she was. But lately, I just knew something was off. It started with small things, her phone ringing at odd hours, her being secretive about her texts, and her suddenly becoming super defensive whenever I'd ask where she was or who she was talking to. I'd catch her hiding her phone or deleting messages, and I'd ask her about it, but she'd just laugh it off or tell me I was imagining things. She'd say, "You're paranoid," or "You're just insecure," that kind of thing. Honestly, I told myself it was probably just work stress, or maybe she was just bored and looking for some excitement. I wanted to believe it wasn't serious. Maybe she was just being a bitchy woman, as she liked to call herself when she was in a bad mood. Then, about 2 months ago, things took a sharp turn. She started coming home later than usual, often after midnight, and her stories about where she'd been changed from one day to the next. At first, I thought maybe she was just working late or hanging out with friends, but I knew her better than that. She's not the kind to stay out until 2 or 3 a.m. just because she's working. She's not even the type to go out drinking with friends much. She's more of a stay home, watch Netflix and bitch about everything kind of girl. So when she started brushing off my questions and giving me these vague, dismissive answers, I felt a gnawing suspicion. What really tipped me off was the subtle way she started treating her phone, keeping it close, hiding it when I was around, constantly changing her passcode. She'd get these weird, tense looks on her face whenever I'd ask her to see her phone or when I'd try to look at her messages. She'd quickly shove it away or act like I was crazy. I knew I wasn't imagining it. Something was definitely happening. I just didn't know what exactly until one night when I came home unexpectedly early from work and I saw her phone glowing on the kitchen table. I glanced at it just for a second. I shouldn't have, but that's when I saw the message. It was from someone named Chris, and the message said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." The text was pretty explicit and my heart dropped. It was like I'd been punched in the gut. I froze there, staring at the screen, my mind racing. I could see her coming into the room behind me, acting normal, trying to pretend like she wasn't doing something she shouldn't be. But I wasn't falling for it. I already knew. I felt sick. All the little signs, all the weird behaviors suddenly made perfect sense. Jessica was cheating on me. The girl I'd trusted, the girl I slept next to every night, was lying to my face. I didn't say anything right away. I just walked out of the room and sat in the living room trying to process what I'd just seen. It was like my entire world was crumbling. I didn't know what to feel first: anger, sadness, betrayal, or just pure shock. I kept looking back at that message over and over, feeling the weight of it sinking in. After I saw that message, I couldn't breathe right. My mind was racing, trying to process what I just found out. I sat there in silence, staring at the wall, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak. How could Jessica do this? We had a life together. We talked about having kids, building something real. And here she was, sneaking around behind my back with some guy named Chris. I kept asking myself, how long has this been going on? How could I not see it? Was I just blind or stupid? I knew I couldn't just confront her immediately. I needed to think, to plan. I couldn't just storm in and accuse her without proof, but I also couldn't keep pretending it wasn't happening. I decided that the best thing to do was to catch her in the act if I could. I wanted to see for myself how deep this betrayal went, but I also knew I had to be careful. If I tipped her off, she'd cover her tracks. I started paying closer attention to her schedule, her phone, her habits. I wanted to catch her red-handed, but I also wanted to be smart about it. It wasn't long before I started noticing more signs. She was unusually secretive about her phone, like I said. She'd leave it on silent all the time, even when she was with me. She'd go to the bathroom and stay there for ages, texting or calling someone. I'd hear her giggling at her phone late at night, and I'd hear her whispering in that annoying, bitchy tone she uses when she's trying to hide something. I felt like I was losing my mind. Every little thing she did now seemed suspicious. The trust was gone, completely shattered. One night, I decided enough was enough. I pretended to go to bed early, but I sneaked out of my room and hid behind the door when she went to answer her phone. I could hear her talking to someone. She was laughing, which she rarely did in front of me anymore. Then, she said something that made my blood boil. "Oh babe, I can't wait to see you tonight. I've been so horny all day." That was the moment I knew for sure, beyond any doubt, that she was sleeping with someone else. The way she said babe and horny, like it was nothing, like it was just another normal part of her life. That was the final nail in the coffin. I felt sick. My stomach twisted and I was furious. I wanted to burst into that room and tear her apart right then and there, but I knew I needed to stay calm, to think about what I was going to do next. I stayed there, silent and furious, listening as she continued her filthy conversation with whoever Chris was. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I couldn't keep pretending or ignoring what was happening. I'd confront her, but not in anger. I had something else planned, something cold and calculated, to make her see exactly how much she'd hurt me. I'd catch her, expose her, and then decide what my next move should be. Because if she thought she could cheat on me during my pregnancy, while I was doing everything I could to keep our family together, she'd better think again. The next morning, I woke up feeling numb but determined. I knew I couldn't keep living in this state of limbo. I had to confront Jessica, but I also needed to be strategic. I played it cool, pretending everything was normal, but inside I was already planning my move. I decided I'd wait for the right moment, when she was most vulnerable and unprepared. I wanted her to know I wasn't some fool, that I'd been watching her every move. That day I came home early from work. I needed to catch her in the act, or at the very least get her to slip up. I hid in the closet while she was in the bathroom, waiting for her to come out. When she did, she looked tense, like she knew she'd been caught but was trying to hide it. I kept my face neutral, not giving her the satisfaction of knowing I was onto her. I followed her as she went about her day, watching her every move. She was extra careful with her phone, even more so than the night before. She kept messaging Chris, probably trying to cover her tracks, but I had already taken some screenshots of her messages, just in case I needed proof later. Then around 5 p.m. she got a call. I saw her smile and answer it, holding the phone to her ear. I tried to listen in, but I couldn't make out everything, only snippets. I heard her say, "Yeah, I'm free tonight. Can't wait to see you again." That was enough. I snapped some more pictures of her on her phone, feeling the adrenaline spike through me. I knew I couldn't let her see I was watching, so I kept my distance, acting like I was just going about my day. But I was already planning what I'd say, how I'd finally lay everything out in the most devastating way possible. Later that evening, she told me she was going out with her friends, but I knew better. I stayed in, waiting for her to leave, then I followed her from a distance. She went to a hotel, I was sure of it. I saw her get into a car with someone, and I followed at a safe distance, watching her go inside. When she finally thought she was safe, I parked nearby and used my phone to record her going through the door. This was it. The proof I needed, the culmination of all the signs, the lies, the secret texts, the late nights. I had everything now. I wasn't going to let her deny it or lie her way out anymore. What struck me hardest was the look on her face when she thought she was alone and unbothered. That smug, bitchy smile she always had when she was hiding something. It was gone. Instead, she looked nervous, almost scared. And that made me feel a strange mixture of satisfaction and heartbreak. Because I loved this girl once, and now I was standing there, watching her betray me so blatantly. It was like everything I believed in was crumbling before my eyes. I took a deep breath, knowing I had the evidence I needed. The plan was set. The next step was to confront her, but I'd do it on my terms. I wasn't about to let her manipulate me with her lies or her fake tears. She'd finally have to face what she'd done, and I was ready to make her regret it. I just didn't know how much more pain I was going to feel before I got there. That night, I sat in the dark, staring at the photos and recordings I had gathered. My mind kept racing, thoughts of all the times I'd trusted her, all the plans we'd made, and how she'd shattered everything with her lies. I felt a deep, burning anger that I'd never experienced before. How could she do this to me? especially now while I was pregnant and trying to keep our family together. It was like she was deliberately tearing us apart just for her own selfish pleasure. I knew I couldn't keep this bottled up. I had to confront her, but I also wanted her to see that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. So I waited until she came home. When she finally did, she acted like nothing had happened. She was her usual bitchy self, trying to dismiss me with snide comments and fake laughter. But I was ready. I called her out right then and there, pulling out my phone and showing her. The proof, her face twisted into a sneer. "Oh, please, Mike, you're overreacting. That's just some stupid message from Chris. It doesn't mean anything," she said, rolling her eyes and crossing her arms. I felt my blood boil. "That stupid message, Jessica, is from tonight. You're cheating on me. During my pregnancy, while I'm trying to make this work, you're out screwing some guy named Chris like I'm some kind of joke." My voice cracked, but I didn't care. I wanted her to understand the gravity of what she'd done. She scoffed, then suddenly her tone turned bitchy and defensive. "Oh, so what if I did? You're never around anyway. You're always busy with work or your stupid hobbies. I needed someone to talk to, someone who actually listens to me. Chris does that. He cares about me, unlike you." Her words hit me like a punch. I couldn't believe the audacity. She was lying, twisting everything around to make herself seem like the victim. She was always good at lying, always good at making herself look innocent. But I saw her for what she was now, a selfish, manipulative woman who didn't care about our family or my feelings. I told her she was a selfish bitch, that I was done putting up with her lies and her games. I told her I knew everything, her cheating, her lies, her sneaking around, and I was done. I said I'd be taking everything, that I'd leave her with nothing but her own guilt. She just laughed, that cold, cruel laugh she always used when she thought she had the upper hand. She said she didn't care, that she didn't love me anymore, and that she'd be better off without me anyway. That was a slap in the face, but honestly I felt numb. The next few days were a blur. I moved out of the house, took my things, and decided that I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I was hurt, furious, and betrayed, but somewhere inside, I knew I had to be the one to walk away with my dignity intact. I told her I didn't want to see her again, not until she could be honest and truly apologize. But I also knew I'd never forget what she did. That betrayal cut so deep, I wondered if I'd ever trust anyone again. Still, I learned one thing: I'd rather be alone than be with someone who would cheat on me while I was vulnerable and trying to do right by our baby. It was a brutal lesson, but one I'd never forget. In the weeks that followed, I found myself oscillating between rage and sadness. I'd sit alone in my apartment, staring blankly at the walls, replaying everything in my head: her sneers, her lies, the way she looked when she thought she was getting away with it. It was a kind of trauma, honestly. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see her true colors sooner. All those late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way she'd suddenly become so bitchy and dismissive, it all added up now. And then there was the undeniable pain of feeling completely betrayed during what was supposed to be one of the happiest periods of my life, expecting my first child. I kept thinking about the baby, about how I was going to be a father, and how Jessica was out sneaking around while I tried to be a good husband. It was like a punch in the stomach every day. I couldn't help but feel a mix of guilt and anger. Guilt because maybe I hadn't been as attentive as I should have, and anger because she'd used my own trust against me. But I also realized something else over time. I was better off without her. The girl who'd lied so effortlessly, who'd call me a paranoid fool for asking questions, she was never the girl I thought I married. I started focusing on my health, on preparing for the baby. I knew I had to be strong for my kid, and I couldn't do that if I was stuck in the past, obsessing over her lies and betrayal. I told myself I'd move on, not just for me, but for the little one I was about to meet. My friends warned me I could make her regret what she did, that I should expose her to everyone, ruin her reputation, or even get revenge. Honestly, I didn't want that. Deep down, all I wanted was to be done with her and the pain she caused. I wanted to be the better man. So I stayed quiet, kept my distance, and focused on myself and my future. I couldn't help but think about the fact that Jessica was probably still lying, probably still cheating, but at that point, I didn't care. The only thing that mattered was that I was slowly rebuilding my life, one step at a time. The hardest part was accepting that I'd never get the closure I wanted. I'd never get her to admit she was wrong or to say she loved me. She'd lied so many times that I stopped trusting her words long before I found out the truth. I realized I'd have to find peace in the fact that I knew the truth, even if she refused to face it. And that, somehow, was the beginning of my real healing. Now, as I look back on everything, I can honestly say that the betrayal changed me. Not just because I was hurt or because I lost the girl I thought I knew, but because I learned something about myself. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can hide the worst truths, and that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to fully rebuild. But I also learned that I had the strength to walk away, to stand up for myself, and to prioritize my own well-being and the well-being of my child. Jessica's lies and her betrayal taught me a hard lesson, that love isn't enough when someone is willing to lie and cheat during one of the most vulnerable times in your life. I won't pretend I didn't feel anger or heartbreak. I did, and honestly, I still do sometimes. But I also realize that holding onto that pain only weighs me down. I've chosen to focus on the future, on my son, and on making sure I never let anyone manipulate or betray me like that again. If there's one thing I want others to take from my story, it's this: trust your instincts and don't ignore the warning signs, no matter how much you love someone. It's better to face the truth early than to let it fester and ruin everything. And when betrayal happens, you don't have to sink into despair. Sometimes, walking away is the only way to preserve your dignity and find peace. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm better off without her. I'm healing, slowly but surely, and I'm determined to be the best father I can be. That's what really matters now. And if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that sometimes betrayal is a brutal wake-up call. But it's also a chance to rebuild, to learn, and to become stronger than you ever thought possible.